see what he can do in the midst of unbelievers, on the leading edge with his word, his power, his grace, and his mercy. For God's sakes, we're Lutheran. This is what we know.
Wittenberg Project, like, comment, subscribe. So, as y'all know, there's been a lot going on recently. A lot going on. And something I want to touch on. Comments like this. Now, while it's true that, like you said, Jesus and Paul weren't, matter of fact, what we're going to talk about here is two kinds of righteousness. Righteousness between you and God, and righteousness between you and your neighbor. Now, he's right, Jesus and Paul weren't exciting protests and things of that nature. This stance kind of bothers me, you know what I'm saying? Because if they really feel that way, you know what Paul and Jesus were doing? Jesus was preaching the gospel to the people who weren't feeding the poor, the people who were doing the injustices. He was going out giving them law and gospel. Paul was going in the synagogues to the same type people, telling them the good news, preaching the law and gospel. Got beat, stoned, whole bunch of things. If you really feel this way that he does, why aren't you down at the local police station? Fly to Minneapolis. Go to the local police station, you go in there and you start preaching law and gospel to them. Because you make it sound like they had nothing to say about those type of things, but they did. As Pastor Jordan Goodham says, here's his tweet. We have to separate this notion about righteousness and justice as if they're not related at all. Not related at all. Now, when it comes to righteousness, there's two types that we see in the Bible. There's God to you. Nothing you can do to earn that. But then there's also righteousness between you and your neighbor. I mean, love neighbor as you love yourself type stuff. James, the book of James talks about it. Actually, the book of James says, James 2:8, if you have fulfilled the royal law according to Scripture, to love your neighbor as yourself, you've done well. But if you show partiality, you are committing sin. Now, a lot of people, they'll push back on these things going on about people protesting and fighting. I'm not saying burning a place down is right. I'm not saying or looting or that. But standing up for injustices, basically protesting, is not wrong. It's not trusting the gospel. It's not. But these people have no problem standing up for abortion and things of that nature. But you literally saw a man die. A guy with his knee on his neck for like 9 minutes, and you saw him die. And this is your response? Like, how is that not partiality? I'm tired of marches. I'm tired of seeing this stuff. I'm tired of the same group of people coming up with excuses to justify. I'm tired of people who profess themselves as Christians, rely and bank on sola fide, but really hate and don't give a damn about their neighbor. They really don't. They don't care that this is a trend. They'll find every excuse in the book to minimize it. I'm tired of black people with all white friends who are like, it's no big deal. Tired of you too. Like, I'm just tired, man. Like, this stuff weighs heavy on people. Like, it might just be political to a lot of people. A lot of people watching this. This is real life. This is real life. Like, when I get pulled over, I'm not gonna tell the classic story, but when people get pulled over, like, I'm literally terrified. Because things can go left real fast, and it's my fault, period. To a lot of people, it's my fault. It's, if you obey the law, nothing happens. Okay. If you say so. It just, I don't know, man. How is that not partiality? How is it you're okay with remaining silent to that injustice and have the nerve to call people out about speaking out and protesting? Now, the good thing about two kinds of righteousness is it separates this notion that I think a lot of people have mixed up. You are saved by grace through faith. Like it's that's it. It's not what you do, not your works, none of that saves you. Okay? But we have to separate that from the notion of the fruits, how God enables you to love your neighbor, stand up for your neighbor, help your neighbor, and things of that nature. We have to be able to separate that, because we have a lot of people who, I'll say, they like to hide behind the notion of faith alone. Like, we cannot use "we are saved by faith alone" as an escape clause to love your neighbor. Like, that's not biblical. You can't do that. You can't make a mockery that, oh, I'm saved by faith alone. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to help my neighbor. I have to love my neighbor. I really could care less. I could care less about a guy being choked out saying I can't breathe and me watching it. I could care less about that. So, I just watched that video of Minneapolis, and it's like we aren't viewed as human sometimes, yo. Like, this man sat there pleading for his life, like just saying, I can't breathe. Listen, I don't want to debate. I don't care what I don't care what he did on Wednesday of 2012. I don't care. Like, it comes to a point where you have to realize, like, we're all made in the image of God. And to sit there on someone's neck while it's for you guys. Are you guys that scared? Like, it's I'm speechless, because it's like just the day before we had the lady in the park calling the cops for a bird watcher who told her dog was off the leash. And she pulled the classic stunt of, it's a black man threatening me. Some of the most dangerous words that can be uttered towards people like myself. Because once that's uttered, things like Emmett Till happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like the fear just trumps everything. Like, it's for you guys. There's no reason for you to sit there with your knee on his neck, like gasping for air, telling you, I can't breathe. He literally died with your knee on his neck. And I know it's going to be people who try to bring up like a Ahmaud Arbery. Like, I didn't comment on that. You know what I'm saying? This stuff happens so much. I don't want my channel to be about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I talk about it a lot, but with other people. Besides the point, this man died with a knee on his neck. 4 people around him that have guns, pepper spray, batons. I don't know, man. Like, it's sickening. It's just sickening, man. And it's only so much like people can take. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to get political on here, but it's like, at what point will people just say that there is an issue? There is an issue. Those things, it's a dynamic that, I mean, our words and our profession, they can't be empty. They can't be empty words. It can't just be something you're saying as a cliche phrase. Because in John it says, if you do not love, like, the person standing next to you who you are able to see, how are you able to love God who you have not seen? And it's like we take those words lightly, because we say, oh, we're saved by faith alone. And we make everything else like third-tier things. Orthodoxy and orthopraxy, your profession and the way you live in light of that profession, can't be separated this much. It can't be separated this much. It's like you're making a mockery out of the tenets of the faith. And the people really want to use you're not trusting the gospel because you want to protest an injustice and talk about an injustice and address an injustice. Like I said, I need you to do like Paul, risk getting beat, stoned, and everything, and go share the gospel with these people who are doing these injustices, because they need the gospel. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't just tell the victim or people standing up for the victims this. That's not right. That's not right. What happened to weep with those who weep? It's like totally missing from the equation. Something that I learned from a lecture from Dr. Joel Bierman. He talks about what the first Great Commission was. Now, it throws you off when you hear that word. You think Great Commission, go share the gospel, you know? But in Genesis, our first actual call that God gives us is to be fruitful and multiply and have dominion over the earth. By dominion is the part we're going to focus on, the have dominion of the earth. That's cultivating things like the garden. That's cultivating things like society, art, the world, laws, government, things of that nature.
And that's this idea then that to fulfill the first Great Commission, fulfilling the first Great Commission of being fruitful and multiply and having dominion over the creation means that culture building is good. So when we are working on culture building, and what I mean by that would be simply life in the modern world. Architecture, art, farming, raising families, music, literature, language, all of that, all these human pursuits are good, because that's part of cultivating the creation. See, what this means then is, if we actually pay attention to Genesis 1 and 2,
in 1 month, we went from seeing a guy running and basically having a guy hop out on him with a shotgun. However you feel, if he stole something or not, whatever happened they're not the cops. That wasn't justified, but you watch that. I've seen people make excuses for that. We have the lady. Cop ran her house, opened fire. I'll put a picture of her up right here. And now we have this. And people are still pushing back on, well, yeah, wait for more evidence. We're in the era of video. You can see what happened right there. I just don't see when will it be enough for you people to say that we need to get involved. Now, I'm not saying you have to preach from your pulpit social justice. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying a sermon should be Christ crucified. But let's not act like Christ doesn't address the issues of the heart when it comes to racism and things of that nature. Because that's what needs to be focused on. Like the person who did it might not be in your pews, okay? But a lot of times we know somebody who harbors ill will and feelings towards other people, and we need to share the gospel with those people. We need to address it. There's people in the pews who need to hear things about reconciliation of neighbor. Like, we can't just avoid this topic. We can't. Like, it's not something that's just going to go away, because it hasn't. It hasn't gone away. And as something that Will Smith said is, it's not getting worse, it's just getting filmed. In the black community, you'll hear numerous stories. I have stories, my dad has stories, my granddad has stories, my great-granddad has stories about Black Wall Street. Like, military or police or law enforcement going too far versus people of color. And for the people who are going to say, well, it happens to white people, actually, it happens to them a lot more, actually, when you look at police violence to them. Okay, two wrongs don't make it right. If that's the case, bring it up. You should care. I should care. Bring it up. I'm going to bring it up that I see and I've experienced. If you have that experience where you're seeing another community being treated wrongly or unfairly, bring it up. Don't say, well, because they shut up and bear getting treated bad by the cops, so should you. That's basically what you're saying. That's basically what you're saying. That's not okay. It's not okay. Like, as a people, now, I'll probably get unfollowed for this video. Probably maybe a couple thumbs down. You see? Probably a couple thumbs down. But something has to be said. Like, it has to be said. Anyhow, man, like I said, I didn't want to do this video, but yo, to be honest, something I always say, listen, man, a racist, a bigot will listen to someone of their own race, another white guy, another whatever, more than they will me. So, please, I mean, open your mouth, share the gospel. If you hear things wrong, say something like, yo, that's not right. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's all I can say, man. God bless and good night.